Welcome to the Korum Fishing Made Easy DVD. I'm Nigel Bothwell on my favourite River Wye, and I'm going to show you how it can be easy to catch barbel. It's not the greatest day today, it's been raining all night and I think there's some more rain to come. But I'm with Di Gribble, top specimen angler. If I can't catch them, this man will. But the main thing is today is we're going to show you the kit we use. We're going to show you all the baits, all the little secret tips, and just how easy it can be if you get your tactics right.
It's certainly up today, Nigel.
It definitely is. It's going to be challenging, but enjoyable, Di.
Just hope there's not too much weed coming down. It's always nice to see a new stretch. Shall we just go and walk it first and have a look what's available?
That's right. We don't want to lug the gear around.
No.
Time spent on reconnaissance is time seldom wasted.
Indeed. Well, we're just the first week of the season. It's June, unseasonal June at that. We're on the River Wye between Hereford and Ross-on-Wye on a Wye-Usk stretch that's just opened for course fishing this year. There's obviously been one or two people fish it already, but I think the other bank has been fished quite a bit and produced some barbel. We'll have to wait and see whether this one does. I'm just tying up my new rig, new Korum braid, expert braid with a size 6 expert hook. I'm going to have a quick look. So I've got a grinner knot with a loop holding the pellet on that you can then just slacken off to put a new pellet on or change. I find that works very well, particularly in the sort of flood conditions. They never come off if you get them on properly in the first place. A Korum big point hook, size 6, which I'm just knotless knotting on 8 or 10 times. That means that you've then got the hair coming off opposite the point of the hook, which I always find is a good place for the hooking of the rig. And then just back through, so there's no actual knot, it's just threading it up and that holds in place. And then I've just got to thread a sleeve on the other end. Just to make that easy to thread this sleeve, I'll just use a gated baiting hook. Then just that pulls through, and then you've got an anti-tangle sleeve on your line, and I'm then going to tie that to the swivel that I've already got on my main line with the rest of the run kit. So the run clip there has got the swivel on the end of the main line. That's a sleeve that protects the knot, but it's cunningly designed so that when it's on with the lead it holds off, and I can show you that later. So I'll just tie that on and then we'll clip a lead on and show how the whole thing works. So again, a grinner knot, 5 turns, just wet it with saliva just to ensure it slides down nice and neatly. I'm going to butt that up to the swivel and then pull the sleeve down over the swivel to protect it, and then we'll put a lead on and show how the whole, and push the sleeve up onto the swivel to show how it holds off. So I'll put a lead onto the clip. So what we have then is a little lead clip on the run ring. You just slide it on. You can see I'm using a 4-ounce lead to start with. We'll see if that holds bottom. The beauty of this is that the run rig kit is that it holds it at an angle so that when you cast out, that you'll find that it doesn't tangle as much because it just kicks it away a little bit, but it still works as a very smooth running rig so that there's no resistance to the barbel, that it's straight through to your rod top. So there we have it, a fairly simple running rig. The one thing that I'll often do with this is add a PVA bag, but at the moment I'm going to try it first cast in the swim. There's a bit of a crease. If there's barbel out there, I think they'll be going to hold you up in one spot, and hopefully the smell of just the one pellet will be enough. If not, I will then put some bait in to try to draw them onto it.
This is what I'm going to use in the feeder. It's the spicy meaty method mix. The barbel will live under the bridge. I've got to pull them quite away, but I'll tell you what, they'll smell that from miles away. And just to add to the attraction, I've got matching pellets. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to pack them in the middle of the feeder. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start off with my feeder open end, and then I can put the lid on later if I want to just keep the attraction in the feeder. But I'll just put them in the middle and then plug it either end, because the first few casts really today is going to be about getting some bait in. There we go. Get some bait in, draw them upstream to me where I want them. I can't fish where they are. I'd never hold. The river's at least 2 foot up overnight, but that should draw them. Touch wood, I'll catch them on my terms. Okay, this is the rig, quite straightforward. As I say, start off on the open end feeder, and then I've got the Korum clip swivel here, which is a really neat little arrangement because it's running, free running, quite safe. And then here I've got a clip swivel, and there just a sleeve to go over it. I can change my hook link easily if I want to. Really neat little arrangement, and it's tangle free. I'll show you why it's tangle free, because it sits proud like that, so it doesn't wrap around the feeder on the cast. Really simple but neat, just takes it away. Some line you'll get wrapped around there, whereas that little sleeve just keeps it free, which I need because I've got about a 3 foot long hook link, and then on the end I've got one of my sausage hook baits. And again, I wish you could smell that at home, because that smells just like the ground bait, and I know that barbel absolutely love these. Right, time to put it to the test. First cast of the day, always the exciting part. And I'm just going to drop it on the edge of the crease here. On some rivers, that big badosh would spook them, but with this water coming down here, we'll get away with that. I've let out a bow of line. Yeah, that's held. Yeah, on some rivers, if you're fishing smaller rivers, a cast like that, they'd be selling tin hats. Every barbel would exit stage left. You'd have no chance. If I made a miscast on a small river, even with a 1 or 2 ounce lead, I'd move. I'd know I'd wreck the swim. But a big river like the Wye, it's deep, it's carrying extra water, you can get away with it. So, and with a big feeder like that, you've got no option. If it is clear and it's lower, then overcast and drag it back to where you want to be.
I've just had my first cast on the crease where the slack water meets the faster water. I'll sit back and just have a look and see whether there's any signs of action on the rod top. Keep an eye on the water, see if there's any signs of fish moving elsewhere in the river that might be where they might be holding up, they might not be on the crease. And it's just a case of moving it around and deciding whether to put some bait in to try and pull them to me if they're not there. But I'm going to let it fish for a few sort of 10-15 minutes without any bait going in, because if they're there and feeding, I want them to eat my bait, nothing else.
Here's a little tip. When I cast out, I always look at my watch, because I'd expect if there's a barbel at home to catch one within the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes maximum. I wouldn't leave it in for longer than 20 minutes. First few chucks I might go a bit more regularly than that just to get some feed in. But I always look at your watch. It's interesting to know how, don't just chuck it out there and wait. I'd expect if there's a barbel at home, I'd want to catch one within 10 to 15 minutes. And if you get it right, you usually will. So after 10 to 15 minutes, if I haven't had any indications, I'll be thinking, put some more feed in, or perhaps just go a little bit further out. Perhaps they won't come in as close as I am. They're likely to live further out in the middle, but in these conditions, it's going to be impossible to hold. So hopefully I can draw them in, but it is worth doing that. Just watch the clock. Don't just sit there and wait for it to happen. Be proactive.
It's very quiet at the moment. There's a few bits of debris coming around. Oh, there was a bit of a knock from a chub then. It's no barbel yet. There's a bit of debris coming down, knocking the line. My tip at the moment would be just sit and stick with what seemed right at the start of the session, and we can always add some bait afterwards. We can have a good go with a bit of bait later, but at the moment I'm sticking with the plan of keeping just one hook bait in the area, or two hook baits. I've put a second rod out now. The good thing about where flooded river is you can't do too much damage with bait because it's going to soon disperse, so you'll pull fish, but and you're not going to spook fish in the same way with clear water. So whilst it's not ideal in some ways, it does have advantages. Right, I'm going to tie up some PVA bags of pellets, little mesh bags, and then you can just nick them on the hook and use those to attract the barbel in the swim to your hook bait. It's an alternative method to using a swim feeder. So just hand in the bag into the little funnel part, shake it. You can put as many of us, I mean you can make them as big or not as you want. I tend to start with about a golf ball size. So just pat them down and nice and tight, twist it round, slide the knot down slowly with your fingers so that it's nice and tight, and then another knot on top, and then just trim that off. I'll trim that one off for the next one. I've been using, these are 4mm pellets. They're quite small pellets. The idea is that lots of smell and they will go downstream, but you'll notice they're flat pellets. They're called elliptical pellets. They won't roll on the riverbed as much, so they hopefully will stay in the area with the hook bait, attracting the barbel to the hook bait. What we've got here is the two sizes of ellipse pellets that I've got today. These are the 4mm on the right, on the 12mm in my left hand. You can see that there's a massive difference in size, and that to eat the same amount of pellets, to get the same amount of food, the barbel have got to eat an awful lot more small ones. So you've got to be very careful, if the fish aren't feeding very heavily, not to put too many of the big ones in, simply because you could fill the fish up very, very quickly and it'll stop them grubbing around. The idea is that you want them grubbing around in your swim looking for food for as long as possible. On occasions they'll be really having it, you'll have a lot of fish and you can put an awful lot of the 12mm pellets in, but other occasions it's wise to start. You can always put bait into a swim, it's very difficult to take it out. All you can do is rely on the current to remove it and start rebuilding the swim up. Right. What I'm doing here is I'm putting my pre-prepared pellet bags, PVA pellet bags, into the Sony Baits pellet bagging bucket. This is ideal because they stay completely dry in the top. There's a lid that goes over the top like that. That keeps those dry if it rains. And in the bottom you've got your pellets ready for making new bags, and you can also store, there's room for your PVA, so you can keep that as one little setup ready for if you just decide you're going to use PVA bags. You're up and ready to go. As I said, you can store these between sessions. What you've got to be wary of is that they do absorb oil. The oil makes them less soluble and therefore they take longer to dissolve in the water, which not a problem in the summer in a good flowing river. Be careful though in the winter, because if you've had a bag that's been sat since the autumn and you use it in the winter, you might find, like I did, that you wind in half an hour later and find the bag still attached to your hook. Excellent little bit of kit for just nice, if you're not going to use PVA bags, take it out of your bag. If you are, put it in your bag and ready to go.
I just went for a little tactical change and it's paid off. These feeders are great because I went 3 casts with the open end just to get some bait in, but I honestly think this flow is so much, even with a long hook link. I'm probably feeding Ross on wire here and I'm nearer to Hereford, so I put the cap on the feeder and straight away with some pellets in there and ground bait. It's only a chub, but it's done the business. And if it's done the business for a chub, there's no reason why it shouldn't do it for a barbel as well. And look at that, the old spicy sausage pelleto is so far down its gob. That is one greedy chub. Let's try and get him up here so you can see him. Look at that. That shows you how much they like those baits. Right in. My hands. Oh, I have to get forceps on you, mister. There we go. Look at that. Good to go again. I'll catch you another one on that. And this lad couldn't resist it. Look at the size of that gob. Whoop! Don't splash the camera. Beautiful river wide chub. Absolutely stunning. This is the Arronstone stretch. There's 50-pound salmon come from this beat, but that's still a beautiful chub. Just a safety point. No fish is worth risking your life for. These banks are really slippery. It's been raining all night. So I'm just going to lower him down in the net. He's only been out of the water for a couple of seconds. Look at that, he's as lively as anything. And we'll just let him go. It's a shame with this coloured water that you can't see him. But as long as he doesn't tell his mates, I might catch another one.
Well, Nigel's had one, and he's had a barbel and a chub. I've had nothing down the inside line, and I tried a couple of PVA bags, but that didn't work either. But I just don't think there's any fish there. And Nigel's had one further out. He's fishing sort of beyond the crease into a sort of a nice smooth area of a river. But I've just seen one top right in the middle of the river. So I've decided to have a go and try and keep a bait out there. I mean, it's 5 ounces of lead on the feeder, huge loop of line, and I think it's just waiting till it more or less pulls up and holds up against a weed bed. But at least I've seen a barbel within 3 or 4 yards of where my hook bait is now lying, hopefully. It's always a bit difficult to be certain exactly where your hook bait is when you're fishing with an upstream or slightly upstream with a big loop in the line, because it pulls down and stops somewhere and your line points downstream, and it's a difficult tactic to get your head round sometimes. But if that's the only way you can keep a bait out in the middle of the river, that's got to be done. So I'm optimistic that there's going to be a fish or two in the vicinity. But I've also just started trickling a few pellets in on the inside line, so that if anything does come into the crease, because it's fairly shallow, I'm fairly confident they're going to drop and hit the bottom in the area that I'll be casting to. Might not be exactly the area, but they'll flutter down and they'll roll along, and so the fish will start looking for them. I'm hoping that I'm not overfeeding it. I'm just getting it sort of 2 or 3 every 10-15 minutes, and hopefully that will be an alternative if I can't find anything out in the middle of the river.
So that's how I trick that chub. These pellets, these are 6mm pellets, and they won't come out the holes, but I don't want them to. I want them to stay in there for the flavour, so that the fish have really got to come up and find my hook bait, whereas the ground bait is probably getting washed too far down. So that's fine to send a flavour trail, but they'll keep coming up to those pellets, and on the way they're going to meet my hook bait, just like that chub did. And if I can catch a chub, I should be able to catch a barbel. I've just got to stand up here because I've got a high bank behind me. Just let a bit of line out for a bow, and that should just hold nicely. This isn't my favourite position, getting a stiff neck staring at the rod tip, but you've got to fish what conditions dictate. Yeah, and some people, you turn up today, it's come up 2 foot overnight, it's going through like a train, and you'd be tempted to want to go home. But you know, you've got to remember what gives you confidence is the fish is still there. That's the first thing. And secondly, although on the surface there's a big log floating past, it looks horrendous, but the bottom where those barbel live is exactly the same. And if you can get your bait down there to them, you'll catch them. My saving grace today, although I'm going to get a stiff neck, I'm not be hanging onto the rod all day, because this telescopic feeder arm that attaches to my chair is brilliant, because you could be on any bank, you don't have to try and get it into the ground like you would a bank stick. And with this soft ground, if I put a bank stick in there today and I got a good barbel wrap round, it would probably take the bank stick into the river. So this is perfect. I've just got it nicely balanced on my lap. I can take my hands away if I need to. And it's just absolutely perfect. A real get out of jail card on a day like this. And as with everything with Korum, it just makes your fishing so much easier.
Right, I've gone on to the feeder fishing out in the middle of the river, because I know there are a few fish out, well, certainly one fish out there, and barbel are a shoal fish, so it's almost certainly going to be a number of fish. And because it's quite, I mean, there's a big area of river, I mean, with the best will in the world, I'm probably not landing it within a yard each time. I just want to make sure I can pull the fish towards my hook bait. Yeah, what I'm doing with this is hemp and hallie crush with just a few extra elliptical pellets added to it, but I'm making it quite a stodgy mix, quite heavy, so that it doesn't all come out of the feeder on impact or straight away. I want a nice big flavour trail, and I mean it really is quite heavy stuff, and it may well not all come out of the feeder until I wind in, or even on occasion you'll get it back, some of it in the feeder. But the idea is to give a flavour trail to bring them into that pellet there. That's the one we want them to eat.
And that is a drop back. Yep, fish on. And that feels like that could be a barbel, judging by that reel. Oh, slow down. This is the fish we've come here for, and they fight hard on any river, but on the Wye especially. But with this extra water on and the camera pointing in my face, I can promise you now my heart's in my mouth. I've worked hard for this take. Fishing is brilliant. I just never get tired of me on one end and a barbel on the other. Oh, I've got the 2.2 test curve top on this rod. I fished in Africa. That looks a bit like a hippo going downstream there, but it's that used to be part of a tree, I should imagine. But it shows you the conditions that we're fishing in today. I've shown you you can get a bite in these conditions. I've just got to land it. And this fish is still quite a long way away from me. And when I see things like that lump of wood, I worry. Because something like that on the bottom a barbel finds and I'm in trouble. But you've just got to be patient. It's best if you keep the rod low like this and just keep the compression in the rod and just persuade that fish to swim upstream. Because if you let him turn and get his head, he can be a long, long way away from you. And they live on the bottom there. They know every little nook and cranny, and if there's a sunken tree or something, they'll be through it. The other thing is just to be patient. You know, you wait a long time for a bite. Don't panic when you've got it on. And besides that, this is the fun part. But you know, enjoy the fight. Don't rush it. I've got the fish a lot closer now, but he's still nowhere near beaten. Oh, and he's taking more line. There's a serious bend in that rod. The rod is bent right through, and I can feel the lunges of this fish here where the rod's in my chest, and a mixture of the carbon and cork bent into my chest and my heart pounding. People who say they can't see what there is in fishing have never tried it. And you should definitely, if you're already an angler but you haven't caught a barbel, especially a Wye barbel, put it on your list of things to do. It's great because obviously the Wye is famous as a salmon river, and the Wye Usk Foundation have done a brilliant job of making some of the best salmon beats available to coarse anglers. And for barbel and chub and pike in the winter, which I love, it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to fish these famous stretches of the river. I've not fished this swim before, and he just for a moment found a snag right under my feet, which I do not want him to let him go in again. I managed to slacken off a bit and he swam out. Oh, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Get in. That's a nice barbel. Whoa! That was some battle. That really was. Oh, I don't know who's more tired, me or the barbel. I'll just give him a second. My unhooking mat's all ready. I hope that's shown you. Don't be put off by the conditions. If you've got the right tackle, the right bait, you put it in the right place, you can still catch them. Don't come to the River Wye expecting monsters, but lean, mean fighting machines like this. And you need the right gear to land them. And I can promise you that Korum's expert power hooks and expert power mono works. And I promise you, this lad couldn't have put any more pressure on my tackle. A mixture of these big pecs, that torpedo shape, and that current out there, and that hook and that line didn't let me down one bit. I'll show you the hook in a minute. I'll slip this lad back first. These are the spicy sausage pelletos that did the damage, and they're dead easy to use. Pre-drilled, so just slip your Korum needle through, mono hair, pull it through and slot in a pellet peg, and that is exactly the length that I want it, just right. And I'll show you the hook and the mono. These are what I'm using. They're the Korum Expert Power. They've got a micro barb, and these ones are a size 12, and for me they meet the criteria I want in a hook. You don't need too big. They're ultra sharp, they're lightweight, and they're strong, and that's what I'm looking for in a hook, and these meet that. And the mono, the Expert Power mono, it's olive green, 10-pound breaking strain, perfect for hook links. It sinks well, it's abrasion resistant. Braid's good sometimes, but river like the Wye with all the rocks, you'll get more abrasion resistance from mono. And don't be put off when you first pull it off the spool if it looks a bit kinky, because all you need to do is just tightly do that, and it's lovely and smooth and supple. And that'll just hug the bottom perfectly.
Came straight after casting that a slightly bigger loop out, just dropped back and then thumped, and because I'd let such a big loop out, you sort of wind in and you think there's nothing there, and then suddenly it's thump and you're in. So yeah, I mean, justifies moving into the middle of the river. It still amazes me when they've got a nice slack at the side of the river, they choose to be out in the main river, but I guess that's where their food is. I noticed it started raining again quite heavily just as I caught it, like it did with Nigel's. There's a snag down there when I caught a couple of times. I think it's just a branch or something. Hopefully he'll avoid that. The other thing, I've just gone onto a slightly heavier tip on the rod, which doesn't bend over quite so much, so you've actually got a bit, even though it's a heavier tip, you've actually got more sensitivity for the dropbacks because it isn't completely arched over. Excellent. Just let him rest a little bit. It's always nice to get the first one of the day in the net, isn't it? Hopefully the first of many, or first of a few. Perfectly in the corner. Just pop that out nice and simple. Lovely. The nicest barbel I've seen in a long time. That was on the open-ended feeder, 5-ounce feeder, rammed really tightly with halibut crush and a few pellets just so that it wouldn't all empty out in a hurry. So I just wanted to make sure there was something going to be sat there for a while. In fact, as it happened, it all came, wouldn't have had a chance to come out anyway because the bite came within about less than a minute of casting.
Fish on. I've got a barbel that's intent on going to Ross on Wye, which is several miles down the stream, but he's doing his best to get there. If I let him get to that bridge, all is lost. You've just got to hold your nerve and hang on and hope. Oh, I've got a horrible feeling in this current they can just hang on with their pectorals out, but I've got a horrible feeling that this fish might have found a snag, because sometimes if they're snagged you can take the bail arm off even and let them swim out of it, but here this isn't an option. If it's just the fish, you can press the rod and the rod will actually pull the fish upstream for you, but I've got a horrible feeling this is snagged, and I'm going to change the angle. This is so annoying because they're not playing ball today and I've waited a long time for a take. Sometimes you just get a bit higher. I'm going to stay here for a bit. Still a long way between him and me, but that's progress. It's hard when you don't know where all the snags are, you know, you can't see them in these conditions. But that was worth climbing up the bank for, because I've got him moving now. And you just hope now the line hasn't been damaged in the snag. But we're back in business. Oh no. Oh no. It's gone solid again. It's found another snag. We'll just have to, if you watch my reel, I'll show what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my finger there and I'm just going to let a bit of line out and I'm going to run up the bank and see if the angle will work again. Change the angle. Oh, that's worked again, please, please. That worked. I can't believe my luck. I just hope though that the line's not grating. Sounds like I just heard a shout from Dyer. It's amazing how it's been quiet for both of us. And I've just heard him shout that he's got one on as well. Barbel o'clock. The other thing is it's about 2 o'clock midday now, so people who tell you you've got to wait for it to get dark before you catch a barbel, don't listen to them. You can catch them all day. Just shows it's about 2 o'clock and dies in as well. People who try and tell you you can only catch barbel after dark, do not listen to them. You can catch barbel any time of day if you get it right. Korum, we say, fishing made easy. And it can be easy if you get it right. Although this one hasn't been easy with all the snags. I don't like to speak too soon, but I think he's got my name on. Come on, mister. God. Result. Oh, I say result, it's like tossing a pancake, trying to get him in the net at the moment. This high bank. Oh, he's out the net again. How not to net the fish. It's awkward, the angle on this high bank. Just keep your cool and don't panic. In the net. I tell you what, that fish had my name on it. Snagged twice, took me round the houses, but when your luck's in, your luck's in. I'll show you this one and then we'll go and see what Dye's got. Oh. Always slacken off when you lift the net out, always slacken off because you don't want the pressure on the hook pulling on the fish. So make sure, take your bail arm off, put the bait runner on, whatever, but be careful once you lift them out the water. That's size 12, right in the lip. Nice job.
I was just watching Nigel play a fish down below me and admiring the first sign of blue sky of the day, and mine's just ripped off as well, so 2 at the same time, so whatever it is, it's feeding time o'clock. A lot of people think that it's only worth turning up late on in the day, and I think sometimes in bright sunny days in the summer it can be the case, but certainly when you've got anything like a bit of cloud cover and certainly a bit of flood water, you've got every chance you probably catch more in the day than, because there's more hours in the day than just before dark. There she comes. Yes, I mean they are can be quite obliging. There are times, like with most species, when you've got to be on a particular feeding spell, but at this time of year in June, they're recovering from spawning. They're looking to eat as much as they can, probably put some weight on and replace all the resources they've put into spawning. And one more flip and roll over and hopefully be in the net. Yeah, here we go. I don't think mine's quite as big as yours.
That's what most blokes say to me. I don't feel bad about it. There's a nice wide brace die.
Indeed, yes.
Both went off virtually the same time. I was playing mine, I heard you shout.
Well, I was looking over at you getting yours out of a snag by the look of it.
Yeah, I had to climb up the bank twice. It took me around the houses, this lad.
Yeah, they're looking a bit thin for June, aren't they? They've been spawning. I mean, you look at that over his back. And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and you can see from their fins they've been bashing themselves up a bit on the shallows, but they still fight like anything, don't they?
Let's get them back as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Well done, mate.
Well
That's
done.
a real result. A nice wide double.
One of those barbel was on a paste fished using one of these Korum paste cages. They're designed to allow you to mould a ball of paste, and this is what I'm using here is the barbel paste from Sony, which is hemp and halibut, and you can just mould it and just ease it round like a putty, and it sticks onto the paste cage really well, so you can give it a good tug. And the beauty of that is that you know that your hook bait is actually going to be on there, whereas a lot of people worry about using a paste and it's very prone to coming off. And the advantage of a paste, as you can see, it's very, very sticky, and in the rain here you can almost see the white spots appearing on it as we speak. I mean, if I put a bit of water on it, it sort of goes white, and that shows it's dissolving, and that all that flavour will just go off downstream, attracting fish to your bait, as happened just. And if you want, you can, if you're fishing in a weedy area, you can mould it so that your hook is completely buried so that it won't snag up like you would do if you were using a paste on a hook, but it's still going to stay on the hook. That's the beauty. So Sony paste on a Korum cage, that's a very, very good combination for people.
Right, these are the quick change running rigs that I use. They're really simple, very effective, tangle free, and they allow you to change your lead or feeder really quickly, or your hook link. I'll show you how they work. You get them in brown and you get them in this nice weedy green that I'm using today. All you do is you start off with straight large bore run ring. Just get your main line. It's always worth just snipping your main line to make sure it's not pigtailed and it's nice and sharp to thread through. Obviously it's going to thread through this large bore run ring easily, through there. And then we take this one, get the pointy end, this tail rubbery end, just thread your main line through there, and then the swivel's going to sit into here. And I always use a 4-turn grinner for this type of thing, twice through the eye. 4-turn grinner will never let you down. I've caught big fish all over the world with this knot, and it's one of my favourite knots, and the best thing about it is it's dead easy to tie. Some people tend to go more than 4 turns, but I don't think that makes it any stronger, possibly even weakens it. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And always lick and lock. Mono, you get friction. Never be in a hurry to tighten the knot. Always just tease it down. It's going to be out there for a long time. You don't want to rush this part. It's when you've got a fish on that counts. And you'll also see as I tighten that, the hallmark of any good knot, you'll always get a figure of 8. And just snip off the tag end. You don't have to go too tight. People want to go too tight. Mother Nature doesn't do straight lines. You can leave plenty off. I'll now show you how it all works. Swivel just nicely squeezes into there. And there it is. It's really tangle free. And when I put my hook link on, you'll see it even better because it acts as a paternoster type boom. In fact, I'll put that on and show you. got a figure of 8 loop knot here, so just put that over the claw. Allows you to have spare hook links made up, and you can quickly change if you want a longer or shorter hook link, or mono to braid, whatever. And there, if you look at that, I'll just put the feeder on and show you how easy that is to attach first. There's my feeder already loaded, ready to go, try and catch a fish. And the great thing is if you want to change feeders, heavier, lighter, bigger, cage, closed, or if you want to put a bomb on, or like me, if you're lazy and you leave your rod set up, at the end of the day I just unclip the feeder, unclip the hook link, wind this down to the tip eye, and it's all ready to go. And there, look at that, that sits really nicely. That acts as a paternoster boom, so your hook link kicks out. Works perfectly, never tangles, it's really good. And again, when it's on the bottom, which of course is the important part too, is that will just sit there like that and it's free running. Sits nice and neat, and you get a take, just pulls through. It's absolutely perfect.
This is the Korum accessory chair, which is designed to tie in with use with the rook bag. To put it away and use it with the rook bag, the first thing you do, undo the handles, loosen them, and then retighten them, making sure they're nice and tight so that you don't lose them in transit. You then turn the chair on its side, knock the bar out. That one folds that way, that's that way. And we've now got a nice flat chair which we can then just fit into the straps of the rook bag. First one goes that way, one over there, and then it's a case of lift it up, and then we just clip the hooks, the 2 hooks, onto the side. That holds everything in place, and then you just need to put it on. The idea is that the chair acts as the base of the rucksack against your back and provides nice padding, and is actually very, very comfortable, and you can walk miles with it, far further than you can just carrying a chair on it separately to the rucksack. To put it on, you just lift it on like a normal rucksack, and then you just adjust the straps to tighten them up where you've loosened them to get the chair in. Nice and easy, and off you go.
I've been parked on this all day, so you haven't had a proper chance to see how it works. But this is the roving chair and bag, and it is a really clever piece of kit. Typical Korum, fishing made easy. All I do is just lock that in place so that the chair doesn't open while I'm carrying it. Just clip those, and then here's the great bit. So I take the roving bag, and I just make sure you leave about 1 inch of the leg standing up, and I just loop that over there and loop that over there. You can see now why with the adjustable chair legs, just leave about 1 inch or 2 up, and that is it. That is me ready to rock and roll. And if like me you like roving the riverbanks, that is absolutely perfect. I don't know who invented this at Korum HQ, but they deserve a medal for it. Look at that. That really does suit my type of fishing. Oh dear. Well, sadly it's time to go home. That's it from Di and I on a very muddy River Wye. It's such a beautiful river, but it's come up over a foot, and I think we've had it for the day. But I hope that you've learnt today fishing really can be easy. Barbel aren't that hard to catch. Use the tactics that Di and I have shown you. You've seen the bait, you've seen the rigs, you've seen all our little secrets. It's not that hard, and I hope that you'll catch some barbel soon from a river near you. I'm heading for a hot shower, I think I deserve it. But you stay right there, because it's now time to join some more of the Korum team on a still water, showing the tactics they use there.
Hi, I'm Duncan Charman and welcome to Korum Fishing Made Easy DVD. I'm at a small lake here today, lovely weather with my good mate Chris Ponsford.
And Duncan, this is a reward for all the good trips you've taken on down south. We're going to catch loads of fish.
Good.
All right, we're going to show all the methods we normally use and we're going to have a great day despite the weather. Keep tuned in folks, we've got a treat for you. Well, today I'm going to, I think I'll try the method feeder, one of the new Dura method feeders, and we're trying to try and catch some carp. There's loads in here, and it's a very sultry July day. I can't believe how sultry it is. This is the English weather for you. And I think we're going to catch some fish. We're going to run through all the little methods and the tweaks to achieve that, the type of ground baits, pellets, hook baits, type of method. And we'll show you how it's done, folks, see if we can catch you a few. Well, this is a brand new product. It's called a Dura method feeder. It's exclusive to Korum. And it's an all metal feeder, which in itself is quite unusual, very robust, very strong and very innovative. Got an impact shield on it, and it's basically, there's no separate lead or anything, it's all built into the system. This is the box they come in. There's 2 in each box, and they come with quick change beads, which are these 2 here, 1 for each feeder. Very simple. The feeder itself runs freely on the line, so there's no problem with if it gets snagged up or caught up. Is what, you know, safe rig. The quick change bead is just there, of which the hook length, which is attached to there, which is just going to be a short hook length, which I'll show you later on. Okay, the new feeders, we've got a mould for them here. This is brand new in itself actually. There's nothing to break. It's very simple, spring loaded, and as you can see, this one is specifically designed for this particular feeder. Fits really, really snug, very easy to use, and to be honest, even I get a lovely neat moulded ground bait out of it. So the thing is, it won't break up in flight if you've mixed it up properly, and all the instructions are on the packet for mixing anyway. Right, now the next part of the operation, I'm just going to put a hook length on, and I've shown you how the feeder works. Here's your quick change bead here, and I've just literally pull it apart. You tie this piece onto the end, and then this piece goes up against here. So I'm just going to get my hook length, which is about 4 inches long, tied to about 8-pound line, a size 12 hook, and just going to literally hook that on, and then this pulls down over the top, and then that's sorted then. All right, the next job is to get the little needle, thread that into the bayonet here. And because I'm old, I need glasses. My eyes are not what they were. 2 8mm krill pellets, just here. These get threaded on directly through the bayonet, and then literally that comes through there. Pull that off the needle, okay, and as you can see, there's your hook bait. Okay, next job is to put our ground bait in the method feeder. I've got that in the bucket here. Just going to put a little bit of ground bait just in like so. I then put the hook bait in like so, just so it rests on top of the ground bait. Top the ground bait up over the hook bait. Okay, doesn't matter if it spills over, it doesn't matter. Then literally place the method feeder into the mould, give it a good squeeze, okay, and then I just turn it round, hold the sides of it, and I press it at the top. The spring releases the feeder, and there we have one moulded feeder. So the next job is to cast it in the water and see if we can catch fish. Let's do that and see what's happening. Unbelievable, as soon as it hit the water, the small fish were attacking the loose bits of ground bait as it came off, and it's absolutely like piranhas. It's an unbelievable sight. This lake is so full of small fish as well as big fish that it's a battle. So you'll never overfeed these fish. And it's just a question then of waiting for those bigger fish to come along and have their say. Because once they move in, the smaller fish tend to back off a little bit. But yeah, loads of fish here. We should have a great day.
I've come to a small lake in Worcestershire, and I've never fished the venue before. It's really a pretty scenic, small kind of venue, quite deep actually. I'm fishing at the dam end, so it's a lot deeper. There's a little island to my right, and I'm trying to actually fish, just try and find out what's actually in the lake and how the fish respond. And I'm going to be fishing the helicopter rig. It's a rig that people relate to me, especially for roach and rudd. It's a rig that actually catches most species, carp, tench, bream. As I say, I've never fished it before, so what I've done is I've gone out on a maggot feeder and also a ground bait feeder. So I'm just fishing maggot, 1 over ground bait, to see if the fish will respond to the ground bait or if they're going to respond to maggot. And I'm going to keep casting every sort of 15 minutes. I'm clipped up, so I'm dropping the feeder in the same spot. And hopefully, you know, after a few feeder loads go out in the same spot, the fish are going to come in, a bit like a matchman does, just keeps feeding until the actual fish home in on that actual small area bait. And then hopefully, at the moment things are quite quiet, but I've only just made my first cast. I'm going to, you know, ring the changes, just pop a maggot up with a couple of bits of foam, and hopefully sooner or later these bobbins will start dancing. Once you get your first bite, that's it. You can build on that. It's just actually getting the fish on your bait, that's the bit that takes the time. Well, here we go. This is the helicopter rig. At the bottom end, tied on your bottom end of the main line, is your maggot feeder. Doesn't have to be a maggot feeder, it can be a ground bait feeder. And then just working up there, we've got the actual ready heli rig. And it's called the helicopter rig because it rotates around. Needs to do that because you don't need to get tangles. If you actually push those beads too close together, those float stops, and trap that will actually cause tangles. So just push those apart with your nail, make sure that can actually rotate. We've got, as I say, 2 float stops and a swivel covered by a little micro sleeving. That micro sleeving, not only does it cover up the swivel and the loop-to-loop hook link which is attached to that swivel, but it also stops tangles. It creates a boom, a bit like a sea fishing anglers use a boom, just keeps it away from the main line. And this is about a 4-inch hook link. You can take those down to 2 inches, 3 inches. I wouldn't go any longer than 4 inches because this is a self-hooking rig. The fish come down, they pick the bait up, they lift up, and that hook goes into the bottom lip. So you know when your rig's working because it will actually hook the fish in the bottom lip. If it's hooking them in the side or the top, you might have to change the rig, shorten the hook length. As I say, the best bait, I always find a size 16 hook is the best for maggot rigs. You don't have to go too fine. A sort of 6-pound hook link, monofluorocarbon hook link is best. A lot of people think, oh, I'll go down, I'm not getting bites, I'll go down to a 2-pound hook link. All that will do is create tangles. You really need a hook link that's quite stiff. So stiff monofluorocarbon, 5-6 pound hook link, that's what you need, even for small silverfish, roach and rudd. What I actually do is I keep a few, when I've actually cast out, I like to get into a routine of casting every 15 minutes to build the swim. But once the bait's out there, and during that 15 minutes, what I'll do is I'll tie up a few hook links, just keep them to the side. And what you'll find is if one of these hook links come back, you've caught a few fish, they get kinked. And if they get kinked, they're not actually working naturally. So the best thing is to do is to actually get one of your new straight hook links, put on there, change it. The other thing is if you find that you're fishing 2 identical rigs out there, and on the left hand rod you're catching lots of fish and the right hand rod is just very quiet, a lot of people would think, oh, the fish are all on the left hand of the swim. But in my experience, what it is the actual hook link is probably kinked. Although it might look perfect to the human eye, to the fish it's just not acting right. So take that hook link off, put a new hook link on, cast back out, and you'll probably find that you'll actually get that rod catching fish just as quick as the other one. Or alternatively, if you caught a few fish and all of a sudden it goes quiet, change your hook link. Don't kind of just be lazy on this one. Cast in every 15 minutes, changing your hook links, popping baits up, putting shorter hook links on, just to actually get the bites. Once you find out how the fish want that, you're away. As I say, you've got this little anti-tangle link sleeve in there, and that just comes off, and you've got a little swivel there, and on that swivel clips in your hook link, and all it is a loop to loop, as I say, 4-inch hook link, size 16 hook. Best to use a barbed hook when you're using the helicopter rig and maggot on a size 16, because it's anti, you know, a self hooking rig. The fish pick it up, they lift up, and the hook varies, so you don't have to strike, you just have to pick the rod up with really gentle hands, feel into the fish, and 9 times out of 10 the fish will hook itself, so there's no striking involved. If you were using barbless hooks, they might come down, pick that bait up, and they might actually get away with it, you're seeing the hook fall out. So check your club rules and make sure you're allowed to use barbed hooks. Most clubs allow hooks, micro barbed or barbed hooks in smaller sizes, 16s or smaller, which is ideal for this. And again, that sleeving just actually pulls up onto the swivel, but just keeps it all nice and tidy. And as you can see, I can just put that in my hand and that hook will go in my finger. That's how effective it is. And these ready heli rigs, you can buy in packets. They're very, very easy to use. You get 5 in a packet, and all you do is before you put your feeder on, they've got little loops on the end. You put your main line through there, and you pull everything off that's attached to a bit of wire there. You've got 2 float stops, your swivel and your anti-tangle tube in there. Everything comes out. All you need to do is actually attach a small hook link, and you're away and you're fishing.
Oh, we got a fish on. We got a fish. Okay, feels like a small carp. Yeah. Well, that didn't take long, did it? I love it. This fishery is it's up the Team Valley. It's owned by Bill Burley, a friend of mine, and he's from Clethill. Clethill, www.clethill.co.uk. He runs a B&B up here, and he's very kindly let us use this for the day. He's also got some other lakes here as well. Oh, he's just come off that one. Never mind, there'll be another. Got some other lakes up here, but he's very kindly let us on his lake called Sutton Lake today. Beautiful fishery, stunning surroundings, bird life, bird song, absolutely brilliant, lots of lovely flowers. Couldn't get a better place to come fishing, really. So we're lucky people, that's where we are. This is classic method feeder, because it's quite a sticky mix. When that feeder hits the bottom, it's not releasing straight away, so the fish are having a go at it, and you can see your tip is bouncing around all the time as they're going at it. Then they'll find the pellet, which will be re-released, and then the next thing is the tip will go away, and we'll have Mr. Carp on. He's on. That was a drop back that time. It wasn't the old classic pull round. It was actually taking the bait and hooked himself, and the feeder made it drop back. Because there's an ounce of weight on the feeder. Nice golden carp. Not big, but lovely looking fish. Oh yes, one of those little scaly mirrors, I think. Yeah, pretty fish. So very sort of typical of your average sort of commercial type fish, this one, you know. Although there's some big fish in this lake, probably up to 30 pounds. This is more the stamp that the average matchman would be filling his net with most weekends. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful fish. Barbless hook, so it shouldn't be a problem getting the hook out. They are as easy as that. See those big lips? Oh, she's all left some of that. Handsome. Okay, now I'm not going to be using a keep net today. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop that back in the landing net and just literally pop him back in the water like so. Got to feel good about it, haven't you? Eh? It's lovely, isn't it? Fishing, better than work any day, isn't it? So I think it's about time, rebait, catch another, hopefully a bit bigger.
Well, just a quick tip for you is maggots, you buy them from the tackle shop. What I actually do when I go to the tackle shop, I take my bait bucket and I actually put some flavouring in the bucket before, and I just ask the actual tackle shop to just put the maggots in with no dust or anything, or maize. I use a flavour shaker, krill flavour or octopus, what I prefer, and as I say, it's this lovely fine powder. I just actually put some in the bucket, they fill that with maggots. I go home, I put it in the fridge. The actual maggots are crawling about in that overnight. you know, they draw that flavour in, and it's just a confidence thing really. And then when I go fishing, I've got the maggots, they're nice and flavoured. It also coats the maggots in this nice fine dust. And it's just like a little bit of fish meal. When you cast out, you get these little bits of dust coming off the actual maggots, and it's just a little bit more attracting for, you know, for the fish. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm just going to fill my feeder. You don't have to fill it really full or pack them in there. Just get a handful of maggots and just tip them into the actual combi feeder there. As I say, just sometimes half fill it, but keep casting more often. Like that, you can see I've got a double maggot on there. Got to be quite quick with this. I'm all clipped up. I've got an elastic stop knot off there on the actual line. I'm actually aiming down the actual shadow of a tree in the field over there, the skyline. Just hold the rod up until it hits the clip. It's gone in the water, so I'm just sinking that line. It's quite deep out there. That's still sinking now. The line's sunk. And then what I need to do is just unclip, just in case you get a screamer off a carp or a tench. And the last thing you want to do is not take that clip off, because on a short hook link, 4-inch hook link, it doesn't matter if it's £5 or £6, but what will happen is either the hook link will go, or it'll straighten the hook, or it will actually pull the hook out of the fish's mouth. So that's out. As I say, I'm casting every 15 minutes clipped up, and I'm just dropping that on the same spot. So it's a method that you have to keep working at, but in time those fish will find those maggots, and once you get one feed in, more will come in, because they're kind of going to come in and think, what's going on here? And hopefully we'll catch a few fish later on today. And I'm just going to put a bob in there, on there. And as you can see, I fish quite a tight line here, and it's just the nature of the helicopter rig. If you can imagine that short hook link and the double maggot sitting on the actual lake bed next to the feeder, the maggots are coming out, and a tench comes along, picks up, and if it moves away from the actual rod tip, the tight line is going to pull that hook into the mouth, and if it goes the other way, the weight of the feeder is going to actually do exactly the same. So they don't seem to get away with much on this rig. It's pretty effective. Again, I've just cast out there. As soon as it's gone in there, I've put the rod down, and I've just got to drop back. Again, it's what we've come for. It's what this rig is designed to do. And there we have it, quite a nice roach that. The helicopter rig was pretty much, I think, invented by the carp angler, and then a couple of anglers scaled it down at a lake called Lynch Hill for the roach. Fishing lakes in the winter where bites were few and far between, and you'd sit there for 24 hours for one bite, and the last thing you want to be doing is looking at a quiver tip and missing it. So they found out that the helicopter rig was a self hooking rig, short hook lengths, barbed hooks, and obviously they get one bite in 24 hours and a £3 roach. You can see that hook hold is in the corner of the mouth. In theory, normally it's in the bottom of the mouth, it should be. So I think that fish pretty much took that instantly. So but it's a start. I've just missed a couple of bites. Well, it's not the biggest fish in the world, but it's taken a bit of time to actually find where they are. They're not in the deep water. Out in front of me it's about 8, 10, probably 12 foot, and they're just not there. They're up on the shallows, up around the margins, and I've just been casting around and just hooked a fish, lost a couple of, missed a couple of bites, and finally made contact with the first one. So hopefully from now on we should be able to catch a few more.
That didn't take long, did it? Ooh, having a bit of a go. Some of the lads on the Korum team, they catch some big fish, and that's their main interest, but I'm very happy just to come fishing. I have my fair share of big fish, but to be honest with you, I get more enjoyment out of using more match type tackle, but I'm not a great lover of sitting behind alarms and things. I'd rather come out for the day, in the daylight, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy the daylight, take a few nice pictures, see the wildlife, catch a few fish. He's not big, but I tell you what, this fish has eaten too many cornflakes this morning. I think that one there has had one of Jazz's breakfasts, has eaten the full Monty, the black pudding and everything. Look at that. That's lovely, isn't it? Look at the colours on that. Absolutely fabulous. Well, Tenbury special. Well, they don't object to these small pellets, these small krill pellets. One of the reasons we're using the pellets today is that you can have a lot of problem with the silverfish because they're so hungry in here. So with this system here with these pellets, it just seems to be attracting just the carp at the moment, which is really good. So what I'm going to do now is just load it up again and cast again, catch me another. And I reckon as the day goes on and as a bit more feed gets out there, the fish will start to get bigger. And what I might start to do is I might start to add more pellet to the mix, because quite often that attracts the bigger fish, and this is a bit more like a ground bait mix. As you can see, it mixes perfectly and it's just so neat. I can't believe how good that is. It's superb. I'm loving this rod too. Seems to have plenty of backbone, but at the end of the day you can really feel the fish on, which is nice. God, I'm not falling in this place today because I don't think I'll come out alive. There's just so many fish there. Jeremy Way goes to the Amazon. Ponds comes to Tenbury. Who needs to go to the Amazon?
Well, this the rig, the helicopter rig, and the actual ready heli rigs are really versatile, because if you're not, if you're fishing the water and they're feeding on corn or pellet, you can actually just make up a short hook link like I've done here with a hair on it, just a small hair. And again, put a pellet on, just hair rig a pellet. If they're not having it on maggot, you've got to keep changing your baits. There you have it, just a 8mm S pellet put on there. A little tip that I find, that if you've got a lot of fish in your swim but you're not actually getting pick up on pellet, just put a little kind of like sight stop on the end, a little yellow sight stop. Just something coloured, yellow, red, can make all the difference. There, I just had a drop back on the pellet over on the far bank. As I say, put some bait out there earlier, so that's a sign that we've got some fish over there. And there it is, just a little yellow bait stop. As I say, an 8mm West pellet, small hook. If they're not feeding on maggot, try a different bait, try a pellet, try corn, a little bit of luncheon meat maybe. It's endless, the actual helicopter rig. You can change the feeder to a cage feeder, to a open-ended feeder, to a maggot feeder, and just keep ringing the changes, because every fishery is different, and it's taken me a good hour and a half just to start getting bites. So although I'm getting bites and I'm not catching a great deal at the moment, so I just feel that I'm getting closer. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm putting some hempen halley crush into the actual feeder, and then I'm just getting a handful of mixed pellets. There's 2mm, 4mm, 6mm ellipse pellets. I just put those in the feeder. And one, with ground bait, you can actually put maggots in the middle of the ground bait and then plug the other end with some ground bait. So it's like a maggot sandwich. It's very, very effective, and you just have to be very quick, get your maggots in, fill it up, and make sure you actually cast quite quickly, or else the maggots will break the actual ground bait down and it'll all fall out. So the actual, it's endless what you can actually do with a helicopter rig. It's just, and what feeder you just adapt to the actual conditions and what fish and what species you have in the lake, and what size the fish are as well. Okay, so this is going over on the far bank. Getting closer. So it catches all size fish, big, small, and absolutely minuscule. There you have it, another tiddly little roach. So that's about the only problem you have with a helicopter rig and maggot in the summer, is if you've got lots of small fish like that, it pretty much becomes ineffective. You've got to then start fishing baits like corn and pellet to get through these. So But the helicopter rig and maggot is a fantastic rig in the winter. You know, in the winter you might not get many bites, but when you do, it's normally a big fish. So the helicopter rig, although you know it'll work in the summer, if you come to a venue and you've got small fish like that, then you're going to have to change your maggot and hair rig something like a small 6-8 mil pellet, piece of corn or a piece of meat. So you just have to learn, just find out what's in the venue.
Well, as you can see, the ponds is not renowned for being a small unit. I think that's being polite. And I've got this lightweight chair. Well, actually, no, this is just a nice big comfy chair, thinking about it. And everything's on the chair. I've got the side tray here, I've got my ground bait here, I've got my rod rest here, my rod rest here. So there's no mucking around, sticking rod rests in the ground on rocky banks. It doesn't matter if it's uneven because I just adjust the legs to make it all right. So everything is really to hand. You know, disgorger, spare hooks, feeders, everything's here. So the well-contained fishing station. Take it anywhere on the rivers, on the commercials, makes no difference. System's just the same. Absolutely fantastic. And then when sport's a little bit slow, you can go, well, this is not bad, is it? Chill out. Listen to the cricket if you've got a radio. Oh, I think I've got a strike, boys and girls. Sorry, got another fish. But as you can see, big unit that I am, there's no standing up for the ponds today. I'm just going to literally, I'm going to be like Dave Harrell here, and I really, real. Ha-ha. And just a bigger fish, this one. Probably the best one I've hooked today. But as you can see, everything's round me. I've got the rod rests on here. The landing net's just there. Oh, this one, interestingly, he's got a decent fish. One of them scaly ones, but he hasn't fought as hard as some of the others. Perhaps he'll wake up. Always got to watch that with carp. They sometimes get near that net, and then they wake up. Here we go. That's it. We're in. Yeah, a little bit bigger, that one. Oh, yeah, a bit more of a chunky. There we are. That's it. A little bit bigger. Look at that, lovely scales on that. Big mouth, big hungry fish. All right, well, he's done his bit to camera. He's provided a lovely bit of sport for us. I think we better pop him back, I think. Good day's fishing always beats a good day's work. Okay. Oh, look at that lot out there, eh? Goodness gracious. Oh my word. Incredible. I've got a little plan to attract some bigger fish, because I think the small fish are eating all this ground bait so quickly. I'm going to wet some pellets shortly. 2mm pellets marked on the packet. If it's a 4mm, it'll need 4 minutes soak. And if it's 2mm, the size of the pellets, it means a 2-minute soak. So it's as simple as that, really. So you fully soak them in water, then just drain the water off. They'll then continue to absorb the water, and then about 10 minutes after that, they're ready to use. Right, now what we've done, we've soaked those 2mm pellets we showed you, and I've got some in a bait bucket here, little bait box. These are the soaked pellets. I've got my method feeder in there as well. Exactly the same as we were doing the ground bait. Okay, I'm going to put my hook bait into the feeder on a little bed of pellets. Right, I'm going to top the pellets up over it. Okay, simple stuff. All right, loads of pellets. Put my feeder on the top. Gentle squeeze. All right, turn it round. It falls out. So now that's ready to go. So I think now, because we've got more pellet in the feed, we got a bit more chance of attracting some bigger fish into the swim, because the smaller fish at the moment are absolutely cleaning us out. So I'm going to cast this in. No doubt the same thing will happen when it hits the water. All the small fish will yeah, usual thing happen. Just pop the rod on the rest. Put a bit of tension in the tip. Oh, a little top tip, by the way. Podsy's top tip of the day. Wear a pair of over trousers, because you get mighty mucky doing this. Apart from when you're handling your fish, if it rains obviously, but it just stops all the muck getting onto you. And that works very well. Otherwise you'll go home very mucky and the missus will be cussing you. Now it'll be interesting to see how long I have to wait for a bite. Same hook length, same bait. But are the little fish less keen on the pellet and the bigger fish more keen on it? So that's what we're going to find out shortly.
Well, I've been fishing the old maggot heli rig for a few hours, and I'm getting bitted out by small roach, so I decided to change my method, and I've gone on to an inline lead with some scalded pellet round. Just scalded round, very similar to what I do barbel fishing, but I do it for bream fishing. It's just do quite a bit, and I've just put some bait earlier over on the far bank, and I've just clipped up, put this right over on the far bank, and within seconds it's gone. I've just got a small 8mm pellet tipped with a little piece of artificial yellow corn, and within a few seconds of sinking the line, the indicator's just dropped to the ground and away it's gone. And again, it's only a little fish, but it's proof that, you know, obviously you've got to find out what method works on the day. And there you have it. At least this one's properly hooked this time. There you have it, a little mirror carp. You can actually see, I think the pellet and the corn's still in its mouth there. So pretty instant action that was. Again, I just clipped up, just had a couple of casts over there just to drop it within sort of 10 feet of the bank over there. Walked around earlier, baited up with about 2 kilos of just 4 and 6mm pellets, and just scalded some pellets which I actually fed up with. Just pressed it round that inline lead there. As you can see, one of the new Korum braided hook links. And there you have it, he's just spat out the hook bait. Well, there you have it, I've just changed rigs. I baited over on the far bank a couple of hours ago with a couple of kilos of 4 and 6mm feed pellets. This time I've just put a 1.5 ounce Korum G grip inline lead up the line. What I've done is got a size 7 swivel that just pushes into that, just to make it a semi-fixed lead, but a safety so it'll come off. We've got a hook link made of the new Korum braid, down to a size 10 hook, 8mm pellet, and I've just got a little sight stop on there just for a visual indication for the fish to maybe pick up on. It just gives, it's more of a confidence thing for me than whether it actually works or not, because we haven't put loads of little yellow bits of corn out there, so they're feeding on the pellets. And what I actually do here is it's very similar to how I fish for barbel on the river. I just scale it up when I'm barbel fishing, and also when I'm bream fishing with the method ground bait. I just get a load of different types of pellets. I scald them a couple of hours before I come fishing with hot water. Don't overdo it, just get them moist. And then the way to make this sticky, you can put lots of different things in there, but I actually use corn steep liquor. I find it's nice and tacky and nice and sweet. And I just squirt a load of that in my pellets, and then you just keep adding water, just little and often, so you can actually get to a consistency where you can just actually mould the pellets around the lead. And then I always leave this hanging. A lot of people will bury it or push it in, but I always leave it hanging. I find that it gets a bite a little bit quicker. And what I've actually done is I've made a couple of casts over to the far bank, about 10 foot from the actual bank. I've just clipped up in the line clip again, a bit of pole elastic, so I know I can get the distance every time. And I actually cast that out, put the rod down, sunk the line, and pretty much within 30 seconds the indicators just bobbed up and then just dropped straight back and had a little small carp. So hopefully we'll get this back out. There's a lot more fish out there and we're going to get a few bigger ones.
This is the new combi feeders that we mentioned, okay, and we've got it fishing as an open end feeder with about an ounce loading on it, okay. This is sliding on the main line up and down, so it's totally free running. And then on the bottom end here, we got the new anti-tangle quick change bead. Now I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but suffice it to say it changes at that end there, and the feeder runs onto here, and as you can see there, it just cannot tangle. So it's absolutely superb. So what we do, to load it up, okay, so we can see I'm going to put some ground bait in the bottom, okay, so I literally press it into the bottom of the ground bait. I'm going to put a few pellets, the old krill pellets, in the middle, right, and then I'm going to top it off with more ground bait, just give it a little squeeze, and that there, as you can see, it's standing off proud. The two pellets underneath on the hook length, standing proud. So absolutely superb system. Can't tangle, easy to use. As ever, Korum have come up with the answers for you. Now we'll just flick that one out. We had that one before. There we go. Once again, the little fish are going crazy. But I don't suppose it'll be long before we get another one come along.
Hopefully that'll go within a few minutes. Didn't take long last time. But a lot of people might be asking why I use an inline lead more than a method feeder, you know, a system that's been designed to carry ground bait and pellets. But I just find that if you mix up your pellet correctly and you get plenty of corn steep liquor, you know, CSL or molasses or something like that in there, and make it up correctly, you can actually press that ground bait or that actual pellet round the lead. You can cast, I mean, when I go bream fishing, I'm casting up to upwards of 80 yards with a bigger ball of, you know, pellet or ground bait, and I find when that actually breaks down, it's a lot more discreet, the actual lead laying flat on the bottom, than a big kind of like feeder that's got veins and what have you. So really it's just down to what I just visualize everything, looking at the, you know, on the lake bed and a fish coming along and thinking it's just kind of keeping it a lot more stealthy, that I find. So to me, I just find the leads and the G grips are absolutely fantastic. They, you know, they've got the hole in the middle, they just grip everything absolutely brilliantly. So to me, if you're using a method feeder, you're probably doing it because you're not mixing your ground bait up correctly. You can probably make your rigs a lot more simpler, and to me, simplicity is all part of my fishing. I just want to remove anything that shouldn't be on the rigs, really. So and something that looks so obvious to a fish, like a big method feeder, to me is I'd rather not use one.
He's on. He's on. Yeah, not bad fish. Feels quite solid. Change into that feeder and that slightly longer hook length as well seems to have made a difference. I think they were getting a little bit spooky of those short hook lengths, and possibly the weight of the feeder. This is a little bit lighter, and we're chucking into slightly deeper water now, and I think that's helping us. Yeah, another scrappy one. Didn't take long to get that bite, did it? Well, as you can see, this rod's really bending a treat, and it's got lovely action on it, which is what you want really when these hard fighting fish. They're quite small hooks, we're not on great big hooks, and while the fish aren't huge, you feel every lunge, every pull, and they really absorb it. But at the main time, they've got the power there to beat a bigger fish should a bigger fish come along, as we know, we've just seen just now. There we are, another nice little carp in the net. Chunky, chunky, won't need too many of those. Look, he's even unhooked himself in the net because he was lightly hooked with a barbless hook. Beautiful fish. And there's the setup that did the damage, as you can see there. About a foot hook length on a feeder there. So that was great. Whoop. This is where we had the net handy. Just going to pop him back in the water. Try and avoid the brambles. Oh, he's saying to me, Yibbity, I want to go, I want to go. There he goes. Excellent. Should we catch another? Not a half.
It shows you that fish had picked it up on the far bank and started swimming towards me. Just big slack line there. So we've obviously found a method that's working now. I was just sort of under the impression that the fish were 6, 8, 10, 12 pounders, but they're not as big as I was expecting, or I'm just in a swim with very small fish today. So I don't want to scare that big common out the way that was down there. Ugh. A slightly better one. There we have it, a slightly better fish. Got to be a bit careful, that little bit of corn sometimes gets caught in the net. There we are, pretty scaled mirror. Slightly better fish than what I've been catching today. Again came on the 8mm pellet with the old scalded pellet round the lead. They can't resist it. Another drop back. Fishing tight to the far bank, so obviously we're not going to get screamers today. They're going to pick the bait up, come this way, so we're going to get drop back. So lovely fish. Amazingly, when just before I was playing this fish, there was a small dead roach down floating on the surface, and I saw some movement down by my feet, and I looked down and saw about a 12-pound common come up and just suck a sort of 2-inch roach straight down. Amazing. Well, there you have it. It's a lovely fish to end the session with. Hope you've enjoyed watching the DVD and you've learnt a few simple methods that you can take to your water and catch a few more fish. So hopefully get those rods out, and I'll see you on the bank sometime.